Look at your life right now, your income, your habits, your confidence, your future. Now ask yourself one uncomfortable question: who are you surrounded by? Because here's the truth most people never face. It's not lack of talent that destroys dreams. It's not lack of opportunity. It's the people you allow close enough to influence your standards, your thinking, and your decisions. If you want a different future, you need a different circle. And today that changes. Your environment shapes your destiny more than talent, intelligence, or even hard work ever will. Because no matter how strong your intentions are, the space you live in and the people you interact with every single day quietly program the way you think, feel, and act. You don't wake up each morning as a blank slate. You wake up already influenced by conversations you've heard, behaviors you've observed, and standards you've absorbed. If your environment rewards comfort, excuses, and distraction, you will unconsciously move toward comfort, excuses, and distraction. If your environment demands discipline, growth, and responsibility, you will naturally rise to meet those expectations without needing constant motivation. Most people underestimate how much their surroundings control their outcomes because influence is subtle, not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It works in the background, shaping beliefs about what is normal, what is possible, and what is acceptable. When everyone around you settles for average, average begins to feel safe. When everyone complains about the same problems but never takes action, stagnation feels justified. Over time, you stop questioning the results you're getting because they look exactly like the results of the people around you, and familiarity starts to feel like truth even when it's quietly limiting your potential. Your environment is constantly giving you instructions, even when no one is speaking. It teaches you how to respond to stress, how seriously to take your goals, and how much effort is enough. If you are surrounded by people who quit when things get hard, you will learn to associate difficulty with retreat. If you are surrounded by people who push through discomfort, you will learn that pressure is a signal for growth, not a reason to stop. This conditioning happens daily, moment by moment, shaping your habits until they become automatic and feel like part of your personality. Changing your environment is often more powerful than trying to change yourself through sheer willpower. Willpower fades, but environment persists. When you place yourself in rooms where high standards are the norm, your behavior elevates without force. You speak differently, think bigger, and act with more urgency because the environment expects it. You stop negotiating with your goals because the people around you don't negotiate with theirs, and that silent pressure becomes the fuel that pushes you beyond who you used to be. Standards are contagious whether you are aware of it or not, because human beings naturally adapt to what they repeatedly see, hear, and experience. You don't consciously decide to lower or raise your standards most of the time. It happens through exposure. When the people around you tolerate lateness, inconsistency, and broken promises, your mind slowly begins to accept those behaviors as normal. What once felt unacceptable starts to feel reasonable, and what once felt uncomfortable starts to feel familiar. Over time, your results reflect those absorbed standards, not your stated goals or intentions. High standards work the same way, but in the opposite direction. When you place yourself around people who demand excellence from themselves, something shifts internally. You become more aware of your own gaps. You notice where you've been cutting corners, procrastinating, or settling. Not because anyone is criticizing you, but because excellence creates contrast. It exposes mediocrity without saying a word. In high-standard environments, effort is expected, discipline is respected, and growth is non-negotiable, and simply being present in that space challenges you to elevate how you show up. The danger of low standards is not that they feel bad, but that they feel comfortable. They allow you to stay the same while convincing you that change is unnecessary. They create a culture where excuses are understood, accountability is optional, and potential is endlessly postponed. When everyone around you accepts average outcomes, striving for more starts to feel awkward or even arrogant. You begin to shrink your ambition not because you lack desire, but because your environment quietly punishes excellence by isolating it. Choosing high standards requires intention, because high standards don't chase you. You must chase them. You must seek out people who take pride in preparation, who keep their word even when it's inconvenient, and who refuse to let emotions dictate their commitments. Being around such people raises the internal bar for what you tolerate from yourself. You stop accepting half effort. You stop justifying weak decisions. You become more precise with your time, your energy, and your focus, because high standards leave no room for careless living. Once high standards become your new normal, they begin to shape every area of your life. Your relationships improve because you no longer tolerate disrespect or misalignment. Your work improves because you no longer accept average performance. Your confidence grows because you know you are living in alignment with what you are capable of, and that internal alignment creates momentum that pulls you forward day after day. Energy is transferred before words are spoken because long before logic enters the room, emotion has already set the tone. You can feel it the moment someone walks in. Their presence either lifts the space or weighs it down. Without a single sentence being exchanged, your body reads posture, facial expression, pace, and intention. This exchange happens instinctively, and it shapes how open, defensive, motivated, or drained you become. That's why some people inspire confidence without trying, while others create tension even when they say all the right things. Most people focus on what they say, but few pay attention to what they bring. Energy is not mystical or abstract, it's behavioral. It's expressed through consistency, certainty, focus, and emotional control. When you're around someone who is grounded and driven, your nervous system begins to mirror theirs. You feel more alert, more capable, more ready to act. When you're around someone who is anxious, negative, or directionless, your energy drops without explanation, and suddenly tasks feel heavier than they were moments before. This is why your inner circle matters more than motivational quotes or occasional bursts of inspiration. You can't outthink a draining environment. You can't overpower low energy with good intentions alone. If the people you spend time with constantly broadcast doubt, frustration, or complacency, your mind will pick up those signals and treat them as cues for how to operate. Over time, this becomes your baseline state, and you begin to mistake it for your true personality. High-energy environments don't require constant excitement. They require emotional discipline. People with strong energy manage their reactions. They don't panic under pressure or collapse under uncertainty. Their presence creates stability, and that stability allows others to perform at a higher level. When you surround yourself with individuals who regulate their emotions and act with purpose, you begin to do the same, not through force, but through exposure. Becoming intentional about energy means recognizing that every interaction leaves a residue. Every conversation either sharpens you or dulls you. When you choose to be around people who bring clarity instead of chaos, focus instead of distraction, and certainty instead of fear, you elevate the quality of your own internal state. Over time, you start carrying that same energy into every room you enter, influencing others before you ever speak. Accountability creates breakthroughs because it removes the hiding places most people rely on when progress becomes uncomfortable. When no one is watching, it's easy to delay, rationalize, and promise yourself you'll do better tomorrow. The moment someone else is aware of your commitments, your behavior changes. Not because of pressure, but because clarity replaces ambiguity. You know what you said you would do, and you know someone else knows it too. And that awareness forces you to confront the gap between intention and action. Without accountability, potential stays theoretical. You can believe in your goals, visualize success, and feel motivated, yet still remain stuck because nothing demands consistent execution. Accountability turns ideas into obligations. It creates structure where emotions once dictated effort. On days when motivation disappears, accountability keeps you moving because the standard is no longer internal and negotiable. It becomes external and non-negotiable. And that shift alone is enough to break patterns of inconsistency that hold most people back. True accountability is not about control or criticism. It's about elevation. The right people don't monitor you to judge you. They challenge you to rise. They ask the uncomfortable questions you avoid asking yourself. They don't accept vague answers or partial effort. They reflect your actions back to you with honesty, forcing you to see yourself clearly instead of through excuses. That level of truth creates discomfort, but discomfort is where growth accelerates. Breakthroughs happen when accountability exposes your blind spots. You don't fail because you lack ability. You fail because you repeat habits you don't see or choose not to confront. When someone holds you accountable, patterns surface quickly. Missed deadlines, weak follow-through, emotional decision-making all become visible. Once visible, they become correctable. Accountability turns self-deception into self-awareness, and self-awareness is the foundation of all meaningful change. As accountability becomes part of your environment, your identity begins to shift. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through not because it feels good, but because it's expected. Your word gains weight. Your standards rise. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start acting despite discomfort. Over time, the consistent pressure of accountability builds momentum, and momentum transforms effort into results that once felt out of reach. Weak circles create strong excuses because when the people around you lack discipline, direction, and personal responsibility, they unintentionally validate every reason you give for staying the same. In these environments, excuses are not challenged. They are understood, shared, and reinforced. Everyone has a story about why progress is difficult, why timing is never right, and why success feels distant. Over time, these stories become a collective belief system that protects comfort and punishes accountability, making stagnation feel normal and even justified. In a weak circle, effort is optional and commitment is flexible. When someone skips the work, there is always an explanation ready to soften the truth. Fatigue becomes a permanent excuse. Fear is renamed as caution. Procrastination is framed as patience. Because no one demands more, no one rises. The absence of pressure allows people to remain stuck while convincing themselves they are being reasonable. What's dangerous is not the excuses themselves, but how logical and harmless they begin to sound when everyone around you repeats them. Excuses grow stronger when they are socially rewarded. In weak environments, complaining earns attention and validation. Responsibility feels heavy because it separates you from the group. Anyone who pushes harder, aims higher, or refuses to accept excuses risks being labeled unrealistic or extreme. This subtle social pressure keeps ambition in check and discourages growth, not through confrontation, but through quiet disapproval. The circle stays comfortable by ensuring no one changes too much. The longer you remain in a weak circle, the more your internal dialogue begins to match the external one. You stop asking what you could do differently and start asking who or what is to blame. Challenges are seen as unfair instead of formative. Discipline feels unnecessary because no one around you models it. Slowly, your standards lower, not by decision, but by adaptation, and the excuses that once sounded temporary become permanent explanations for your results. Breaking away from weak circles requires courage because it means letting go of familiarity. It means choosing growth over belonging and responsibility over approval. Strong circles don't allow excuses to survive because they focus on solutions, not sympathy. When you remove yourself from environments that reward weakness, your excuses lose their power, and without excuses to hide behind, your true capacity begins to surface under pressure. You must earn a strong circle by becoming strong yourself because high-level people are not looking to carry anyone. They are looking for alignment, consistency, and shared standards. Strong individuals protect their time, energy, and focus because they understand how easily distraction and drama can dilute momentum. They are drawn to people who show discipline, self-respect, and follow through, not to those who talk big but live small. If your habits, mindset, and actions don't match the level you want access to, the door stays closed no matter how badly you want to belong. Becoming strong starts internally long before it shows externally. It means developing emotional control when situations don't go your way and maintaining direction when motivation fades. Strong people don't outsource responsibility for their results. They own their decisions fully, even the painful ones. They don't seek constant validation or reassurance because their confidence comes from keeping promises to themselves. This internal strength becomes visible in how they speak, how they move, and how they respond under pressure. And it silently signals that they can be trusted in demanding environments. Strong circles are built on contribution, not need. If you want to be surrounded by disciplined, focused, and driven people, you must bring value to the table. That value is not about status or resources. It's about reliability, perspective, and standards. When you show up prepared, on time, and fully engaged, you raise the quality of every interaction. When you listen more than you talk and act more than you promise, you become someone others respect and want around. Weakness repels strong circles because it creates imbalance. Complaining without action, dreaming without execution, and seeking support without effort all signal dependency. Strong people avoid these patterns because they slow progress. Strength, on the other hand, creates resonance. When your work ethic is visible and your growth is consistent, you naturally attract people who operate at a similar level, not because you chase them, but because your behavior aligns with theirs. As you become stronger, your tolerance changes. You become less interested in shallow conversations and more focused on meaningful exchange. Your standards for relationships rise, and your circle becomes smaller but more powerful. This shift is not forced, it's earned through daily discipline, self-respect, and relentless personal growth. Choose your circle as carefully as you choose your future, because the people around you will either raise your standards or lower them. Step into rooms that challenge you, not places that comfort your excuses. Become so disciplined, focused, and strong that the right people recognize you without introduction. When your circle rises, your life has no choice but to rise with it.